All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Safeoclock Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. So, as our culture has been, we'll start with brief presentation, after which we'll now open the floor for discussions. And our topic for this week is workplace impairment. So there is a hidden cost associated with workplace impairment. And in this presentation, we'll be looking in depth into the major definition of workplace impairment and some of the misunderstandings that has been around it. Then we'll talk about the causes, the symptoms, the effects, how it affects the organization. And then we look at how the organization can improve and prevent workplace impairment conditions. So impairment is any condition that affects the person's ability to safely and efficiently perform their job. So anything at all that has the potential to affect how they can do the job safely, that is what we refer to as impairment. So impairment is not just only physical, but it's also mental, and it also has to do, it can also involve fatigue. So it's not just about somebody that has broken arms or broken legs, but if somebody has some mental or psychological difficulty in performing their job efficiently, so we'll classify that as also impairment. So impairment affects the worker to safely and efficiently perform their job because it will compromise their judgment. They have a compromised judgment. They also have a compromised coordination. And also their reaction time is drastically reduced and affected. So that person is classified as impaired worker, or the person is exposed to or is associated with impairment. So impairment is not only limited to substance use. Impairment is also associated with fatigue. When somebody has worked extremely high and is so tired, so impairment can also set in. Impairment is also associated with some medical conditions. Impairment is also associated with psychological distress. And it can also go beyond workplace and enter into the public, the family life, the associations. So impairment can go beyond affecting the person's performance at work, but it can also affect their social activities. So some of the effects of impairment. First one is reduced ability to concentrate. So if somebody is impaired, somebody due to some conditions, either within or beyond their control, the person lacks the ability to concentrate and think effectively or clearly. The person has a decreased coordination and it has a slow reaction time. The person also has the ability to change moods. The mood swings at intervals, and the person becomes irritable. Every little thing triggers him. Then it also affects his behavior and his performance at work. Some of the symptoms of impairment. The first one is the person starts having erratic behaviors. He criticizes a lot of things. He doesn't feel comfortable with many things. Okay, so he starts having interpersonal conflicts. So today he will say yes, tomorrow he will say no. So he will start conflicting in his ideas and even in his personal beliefs. So this person, you can clearly see that there is an impairment associated with his behavior. Another symptom is the person can be, you can perceive some odor of alcohol or drugs, or you can clearly see some red eyes, or you can clearly see poor coordination in movement, poor coordination in hand gestures, even in eye movement. So this is one of the symptoms that you will notice in an impaired person. Another symptom you will notice is walking in an unsafe manner. He doesn't care. He does the job haphazardly, no concentration, no, just the job is done carefree. So such person, you clearly see that this person is clearly impaired. Another symptom is the person fails drug or alcohol test. When he's tested for drug use or alcohol use, he fails it. Another symptom is when this person becomes consistently late, or the absenteeism rate increases, and even the productivity at work also reduces. The quality of job he does is dropped. So these are some of the signs and symptoms of impairment that we should not overlook. So there's some hazard associated with impairment at work, and there's also some of those hazards outside the work. So at work, it's associated with fall from height or falls, even falls on the sun surface because of lack of balance, poor coordination. He cannot clearly see objects on the floor. He would trip on any small object and he'll fall. So these are some of the hazards that this person is exposed to. Accident with machinery. Somebody who is impaired will continuously and regularly have accident with machineries because he cannot coordinate the use. The grip will be loose, so the movement of the machinery can crush him or hit him. So he will be regularly having accident with machineries. Transportation or road traffic accident becomes increased. So these some of the hazards with on the job. Another one is reduced productivity and also quality of work. So outside the work, in the daily lives, the person that is impaired, it also affects his driving skills. He doesn't drive defensively, he drives carelessly. So at home also, his family safety is also jeopardized. He doesn't care where he keeps items. He drops items on the walkway, on the exits. He doesn't coordinate in fire safety at home. So the family and the home safety becomes jeopardized. Then he has a deteriorated mental and physical health. He becomes stressed. He lacks sleep. He cannot sleep. The well-being is well dropped. So these are some of the hazards associated with impairment outside the work. So what is the cost associated with impairment? So this statistics is related to America alone. So it says that 70% of people with disorder in the workplace, that 20% of Americans live with a mental ill health. And also that more than 43% of employees are sleep deprived. So this is the cost associated with well-being. So in safety, the cost associated with safety is that the workers suffer from mental health distress, they have sleep problems, they have increased risk at workplace. Then financially, you see that untreated sleep disorders is associated to about $3,500 per employee. Then untreated substance use disorders cost about $8,817 per employee. And those experiencing mental distress cost about $15,000 per employee. So this is the summary or the average summary of what impairment is causing employers on a yearly basis. So how does impairment affect the safety of the workers and that of the workplace? Poor performance, the job he will do will be shabby. So somebody else needs to do it again. So, and that time is consumed. The resources that has been wasted will also have to be repeated. So it will affect the safety of the workplace. Now there will be poor decision making. When somebody doesn't make decision rationally, then there is increased risk of an accident. So there is more probability that an accident will occur. There will be an increased accident because of poor judgment, because of impaired judgment and impaired behavior. So accident will increase. And there will be higher costs, of course. As accident is increasing, there will be increase in compensation, there will be increase in hospital bills, first aid treatment costs. So a lot of costs associated with accident will increase because of impairment of the workers at work. Then there will be threat to public safety. So impairment will be extended to public safety. The people working in the cities, in the towns, you see that, for instance, crane operator, if he's an impaired operator, then he can lift the material unsafely and the crane can collapse, causing injury to the public and others. So impaired behavior or impaired worker can also affect the public. So some of the causes of impairment, one of them is substance use, alcohol, cannabis, the opioids. So all these substances, they have the potential to impair the thinking of the worker. It has the potential to slow the reaction rate of that worker. Another cause is fatigue. When the worker is exposed to prolonged shift, there will be lack of sleep, then there will be burnout, and he will be fatigued. Another cause of impairment is mental health. When somebody is stressed, there's anxiety, is feeling depressed, the mental condition is diminishing, then impairment sets in. Other causes are personal issues and other physical conditions. So now, how do we address impairment in the workplace? How do we curtail it? How do we control it? The first one is to develop clear policy. Every organization or every employer should have a policy that will state the type of substances that are prohibited, how people will be checked, how it will be controlled. So this policy will clearly state what the organization accepts and what they do not accept. Another way to address it is to promote a supportive culture, ensuring that the workers support each other. The employer also support those who are found in misuse of drugs or misuse of substances. Then training. The employer should provide training for the workers, training for new employees to ensure that they understand what the policy says and what is expected of them. Then education, all the workers should understand their responsibilities. They should know what is expected of them, how to report issues, how to report those who are people they suspect to be misusing substances. And the other one is we should address the root, because impairments do not just start from the workplace. Most times it's from the family, most times it's from home, most times it's also from personal characters and personal behavior. So treating impairment should be treated at the root. It should ensure that we promote work-life balance and we should address chronic stress. So for the policy development, we look at some of the elements of an impairment, workplace impairment policy. If the employer wants to develop an impairment policy, what and what should it contain? Or what and what are we expected to see in that policy? The first one is there should be a statement of purpose and objective of that policy. So the employer should clearly state what is the objective of this policy, what do we plan to achieve. Then there should be clear definition of impairment, what impairment means to the organization or what the organization sees as impairment. Okay, then the impairment policy should also contain the statement of who is covered in that policy or in that program. Is it the entire workplace, or is it a particular level of workers, or is it the management staff? So the policy should state who is covered. Then the policy also should state the workers' right to confidentiality, that the level of right or the level of confidential information that will be protected in that policy. The policy also should state the actions that will be taken against any worker's behavior. Okay, then the policy also should state the mechanism for maintaining confidential reports. If the worker wants to report his impairment or his symptoms and he wants to ensure that it's kept confidential, the process of doing this should be contained in the policy. Also, the statement regarding medical or non-medical treatment measures should be stated in the policy as well. The arrangement of how the workers will be educated or how they will be given an awareness session should also be contained in that policy. Also, the arrangement on how to train workers, the new workers, how to train them to identify impaired behaviors should be contained in the policy as well. Then the provision for assisting disability due to substance dependency will be contained in the policy. Also, the process of accommodating and return to work after the person has been cleaned up, after the person has been treated, the process of returning back to work should be stated in the policy as well. Then another aspect that should be in the policy is the provision of appropriate sick leave and the benefits. For how many days or how many weeks is the person entitled to sick leave as a result of workplace impairment? Then the policy also should contain the statement regarding testing, how often the workers will be tested or with which device or which equipment will they be tested for alcohol or substance use. Then the policy should contain also the provision for hierarchy of disciplinary actions. The disciplinary actions that could be taken against the workers, maybe after first correction, second correction. So the hierarchy of how this disciplinary action will be taken will be contained in that policy as well. So this is the brief I have to present on this topic. And it's a pleasure that I've been able to communicate with my colleagues. So thank you for your time.
Okay, let me come in to chip in one or two information or knowledge that I have, okay, because with focus of the discussion today, we are talking about hidden cause of workplace impairment. And Mr. Johnson has taken his time to give us, will I say, a comprehensive definition or what we need to know about impairment. So, but my focus today I want us to look at impairment in two phases, okay, or two phases rather, like a short term and a long term. A short term, which means an acute accident, while for the chronic or long term impairment, we'll be talking about maybe chronic incident or that will lead to absenteeism in the workplace, because these two aspects of it will create a kind of expense for an organization. As we all know, as an health and safety professional, we know that when we are discussing about the costs of accident in the site, we could have the direct and indirect. So this cost of incidents that are indirect are what we today call an hidden cost, because they are indirect, they are hidden. Most of the times, they are not just things we see directly affecting the organization, unlike direct that you say, okay, you're paying for medical bills, you're paying for compensation, legal fee, okay, insurance. Some of these things can be covered by insurance. But in most cases, in the case of hidden costs, these are costs that are not necessarily covered, by insurance. And according to some statistic so far, you find out that some of the hidden costs are even more, more costly, as compared to some of the direct costs, So it is very, very important that we understand this factor, okay? So I think it's most of those probably costs could be coming from loss of production, okay? Productivity, operational impact, because when there's an accident or a serious accident, a fatality as a result of not complying to health and safety, at the end of the day, this will be the results. When there's impairment, people who are supposed to carry out production, increase processes and all that, if they are affected, they'll be absent from work, and this will lead to low productivity and impact on the operation. So which is very clear, and that's for the human resource replacement. We know how it is for you to start, the cost of replacement of workers and all that, and probably high turnover of turnover rates when most of the workers feel unsafe, feel that, oh, maybe they're unsafe, and they feel dissatisfied with the way safety is managed with such an organization. All these things are just the hidden aspect of it that most organizations don't take into cognizance. So as a professional, these are the points we need to be giving out there, to make the management understand how costly it is, with all these hidden impacts when there's an accident. So we also know that it also have a weight on administrative laws and all that. You have to spend time investigating. You need to increase insurance premium. So many things, paperwork and all that, they will come into play. Legal, blah blah blah, everything will come. So at the end of the day, these are costs that should be documented for company to really know how much they are losing. The reputation of the organization is also there. The culture is also there. So anything that is going to damage the reputation, that's going to lower employee morale and future engagement can be found within these hidden costs, within several organizations. And if you begin to quantify the costs, because there's a statistic in the United States as at 2023, it was stated that about 176.5 billion. I think it exceeded. The statement was that I think in the US alone, about 176.5 billion of in 2023 was spent. Was the amount of hidden costs. That is the data that was collected showcased. And out of this amount, it was found out that over 80% were on loss of productivity. So we could see that productivity has the highest percentage compared to other areas that had a significant fraction. Okay, so why the non-fatal, This one I'm telling you now, this one I said first is for the fatal issues, you know, but for the non-fatal issues that has to do with maybe minor injuries that somebody will miss work for about maybe 2 to 5 days absence, also amounting to billions annually. You know, so it's very important that we have this at the back of our mind as an health and safety professional and continue to push and expose the hidden costs, you know, to our respective organizations so they get to understand how impactful it is, you know, negatively on organization. So we should all continue to strive out to make sure that we prevent workplace impairment. I think that's what I have to say. So give the room for other people to make their contribution and or based on their experience as well. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Johnson. Yes, Mr. David, long time.
Yeah, same here, same here. And I think Mr. Johnson have done justice to the topic and the contribution you've made so far. I think that those are sufficient for the subject.
Okay.
Hello,
Any
I
other
just want to say
contributor?
something.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to say something. Yes, I really would want to appreciate you guys for coming up with this topic this evening. I want to say here that many organizations, when they are advertising for a role, they will say this my organization is an equal opportunity employer. uh, it's a good thing because it really creates a playing field, a level playing field for everybody to come in and apply for such a role. But I want to say here that if you know a worker will be impaired to a certain extent, and that impairment will not help him to do the job, why say your organization why would you come out and say that organization is an equal opportunity employer? It would be good that this organization they should just come out and tell us the facts, because why I said so is issues that pertains to health and safety. Impairment should not, the person is impaired, you should be plain and tell the person that you don't accept such and such. Because if the worker tend to go into the job with such an impairment, it can result to an accident in the course of the work. So my own opinion for these organizations, you just come out plain and tell people that see and see, if you have such impairment, you'll be sidelined. If you are disabled, you'll be stationed. It warrants a person to have complete limbs. It warrants somebody not to have it, to warrant somebody to have 20/20 eyesight, all those kind of stuff. That's just what I want to say, because you see, companies, why they want to come up with such, maybe they want a situation in which people will see them in a light of we don't we don't we don't we don't kind of uh, say we are silencing certain class of people, but just come and play and tell people so that at the end of the day, when a person gets employed, he has a certain impairment, he will know that these are the hazards in the workplace, so he cannot work in such a place. And if he intends working in such a place, it will result to a serious accident in the workplace. That's a little thing I want to add to what has been said so far. So thank you for this topic.
Thank you for lending your voice on this topic. You've really made a good and solid point there for us to note and for us to advise as well, wherever we find ourselves. So Mr. Johnson, you can take it up from here. If we still have any one or two contributions. Yes, Mr. Johnson. Okay, in the absence of no other contribution, I think it will be good. We just call it a day and not to keep us more online. So I would just want to thank everyone for creating this opportunity to attend, or creating the time to attend this discussion section. So hopefully we'll see next coming week, while Mr. Johnson will, as usual, update us on the next topic that we'll be discussing next week. So for those of us who are in Doha, I want to say you have a wonderful weekend. For those in Nigeria and all that, I know you still have tomorrow to run your daily activities and work as well. So thank you very much. See you guys next week.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night rest.
Okay, bye.